Today is the Sun Festival of Virgo. It's being passed today. And today's talk is from Wisdom of the Zodiac, Volume 2, Chapter 38, Holy Mother. This is a beautiful chapter on the archetype of Virgo. And this archetype is found in the core of every woman and every man. And some of us are unfolding this archetype slowly but surely. And for other people, this archetype is still sleeping. So how do we unfold this archetype within ourselves and within others? Well, we're told that each one of us at some point will become a Christ, will become a Buddha. And we can add to that a Holy Mother, a Mother of the world, maybe a petal of the Mother of the world. From the chapter we read, "Today I'm talking about the Sun in Virgo. Virgo is the Holy Mother of the universe. Throughout ages, in all countries, religions, and cultures, they worshipped Virgo as a symbol of beauty and purity and justice. 7,000 years ago, Egyptians had a temple, and that temple was called Dendera. And Dendera was the temple of the goddess Hathor, who represented sunlight and cosmic energies. She was called the goddess of love and healing. Dendera means the house of the sun. And the temple was known as a kind of hospital for psychological as well as physical ailments, and people would have miraculous healings there. They used to make a great procession, and they would go to the temple and worship the Mother of the world. That's interesting. We don't do that these days, but we need to think about that. And actually, the Mother of the world was called the Mother of the Zodiac, with a capital Z, the greater zodiac. And you can see on the ceilings of Dendera a calendar of the constellations and of the astrological movements on the ceiling. Her status and her pictures showed her with a little baby in one hand. And that little baby was our solar system. And she was the protector of our solar system. And she loved our solar system. She loves our solar system like a baby, like a mother would with a baby. And we can feel that love if we tune in with her. They worshipped her, and after worshiping her, they would take her picture to a statue of Ra. And Ra is the god of light and power and beauty, and Ra was the male counterpart. So both would meet together, the positive and the negative, the feminine and the masculine. And together, they were the originators of all that exists in the universe. You see how unbalanced things are if we don't have both? We don't have both originators. And later they had another temple that was dedicated to Isis. And Isis had a veil over her face. And she was called the Mother of Wisdom. And wisdom was concentrated in her. But she had that veil. And those who wanted to know wisdom would have to go and take the veil away and look into her eyes. One of the great women writers, H.P. Blavatsky, wrote a book called Isis Unveiled. And this is looking into the eyes of Isis, the goddess of wisdom, and receiving that wisdom, if we know how to take the veil away. There was also the tradition among the Greek and in the Middle East, in the Far East, where they worshiped the mother. So in 431 AD, the Christian churches at that time had a meeting. And this was interesting. It was at the Church of Mary. And it was at a place called Ephesus, which is now in Turkey. And they decided to call her the Holy Mother, the Mother of God. They were debating whether they should call her the Mother of Jesus or the Mother of God, and they decided to call her the Mother of God. She is the feminine principle from whom originated everything in the universe, everything that is beautiful and uplifting and pure and inclusive. And the Holy Mother had 3 important symbols, and these are so beautiful. The first one is the rose. And in all her pictures in ancient times, you would always see Mary with a rose or maybe with a lily. Mary was referred to as the mystic rose in ancient times. She superseded the rose. And in medieval Europe, after the 12th century, we would see different cathedrals with stained glass dedicated to Mary. And they would have the symbol of the rose. And the most famous one that we can see is called the Rose of France. And this is in Notre Dame Cathedral. And there's a beautiful stained glass, and it's dedicated to Mary. And of course, Notre Dame means Our Lady, our Mother. Quote, the rose symbolizes the evolving beauty in the human being. Woman, or the feminine principle, should and must stand for beauty. And wherever they are, or whomever they look at or touch, they must do one thing. They must reveal beauty. For example, there's a Middle Eastern parable that says, if a woman's hand touches the house, it becomes beautiful. If a woman loves a man, that man becomes beautiful. If a woman works in any department, that department must become beautiful. It must change. She must introduce into it beauty and purity and justice and harmony and cooperation, because this is what a woman stands for. A definition in the book states that beauty must shine out of you. In each incarnation, your body and your eyes, your hair, your face, and your hands must become more beautiful. You become beautiful by manifesting beauty. Beauty is an entity, a great entity in the universe, with whom God is in love. It's interesting to think, God is in love with beauty. We're in love with beauty. And every time that you manifest beauty, you become beautiful, and you gradually become the beauty that God falls in love with. Quote, wherever they go, whatever they touch, it must bloom into a rose. It's an interesting visualization to think that whatever we touch can bloom into a rose. A rose is beautiful in color and shape, but it also has something very different. It has fragrance. And that is why Christ once said, let your fragrance spread. Fragrance is your influence. It's your influence in the world. It's your influence on other people. And sometimes people don't know why they're feeling a certain way. It's your fragrance. You're uplifting them. You're helping them to see their beauty. So woman in the ancient world was worshipped. She was not an advertisement in pornographic magazines. She was not a symbol of sex and lust. She was a symbol of beauty and purity and fragrance. So when people think about woman, they must not think of her body or her legs. They must think first that this woman has a special, divine, and universal quality. He says, I've seen it happen many times. So if women were thought of in this society as a thing of worship, a thing of beauty. Just think what the changes would be. How this society would be so much further in its evolution if we didn't think of women as just a physical thing. And, we as disciples know this, and we can spread this knowledge to other people because they're ignorant of what the real role of woman is. Quote, there was a man who was into crimes and drugs, but when a girl loved him with a higher love, that man changed. And this happens. We can see how love can change people. I knew a young boy of 9 who liked to do many crimes. Eventually, I told his mother, your son needs love. All that he is doing is because he does not have love in the family. I said, show him a compassionate love, a motherly love. And in 2 months' time, that boy was transformed because of the mother's love. A woman's rose, symbolically, the rose, the fragrance, the beauty can change the world. In ancient times, they understood that the woman is so important, and that when women degenerate in any civilization, that civilization ends. And that is why we say, the homes are built or destroyed by mothers. Because every home leads to a community, which leads to a nation, which leads to the world. And if we look at countries in the Middle East who still see women as chattel, where women don't have their rights at all, those countries are lagging far behind the West. And some of these cultures are living as they did hundreds or thousands of years ago. Keep in mind the two origins. They have to be balanced. Quote, the second symbol of woman in the ancient world was the chalice. And the chalice symbolizes the ecstatic joy and the spiritual joy, the mental joy, the physical joy that women can bring to others. But if you go deeper with an elevated woman, you can see that woman can give you some kind of joy, not just physical joy. It's beyond physical. It's beyond mental. Some kind of joy that is spiritual. And that is the chalice in every woman. If women knew what they are carrying in their heart, they will be so careful. They will not get caught in the Niagara Falls of stupidity of our civilization. And the key thing here is heart. The more a woman unfolds her heart petals, the more capable she is of bringing joy and love on all levels. And it's our concrete mind that measures our love. It's our concrete mind that measures our generosity. Here's 2 for you and 2 for me. Whereas the heart just says, here, take it all. I love you. What's mine is yours. You don't have to prove to me that the scales are even. I just give from my heart. But the concrete mind starts measuring everything. Starts measuring our compassion, our love. But the heart is capable of great sacrifice, great generosity. Quote, open any magazine and you will see woman exploited from A to Z. Woman must stand in her beauty because woman is our sister. She's our wife, our daughter, our mother, and she is the source of inspiration. If woman is not respected, nothing is respected. Master Moria says that woman and teacher, mother and teacher are the highest concepts. Well, just think of it. Our mother is our first teacher. Even before we're born, she's teaching us. Socrates had 3 teachers. They were all women. And he learned how to love because of his teachers, he said. He learned what love was, true love. All that you have is from your mother. If you do not respect, love, and worship your mother, you cannot love and worship anything. First of all, you are very ungrateful, and you have fallen from grace when you are hating your mother and not respecting your sister or your wife. The third symbol is a rainbow. It is so beautiful. When they saw a rainbow in ancient times in Egypt and Assyria and the Far East and Mongolia, they would call it the Symphony of the Mother. Isn't that interesting? When we see rainbows, we can say that. The Symphony of the Mother. Think of the mother of the world when we see a rainbow, a beautiful rainbow. The rainbow in the Bible was called the sign of peace. And mothers must bring peace, not war, not aggression, not criticism or attacks. Mother, wherever she goes, must bring peace. Imagine if we had 500 real mothers in the world. What they could do. We only have a few now in the world, like Mother Teresa and other great women who are very beautiful. Well, we also have great examples. We have Aung San Suu Kyi. We have Malala Yousafzai. Malala. And Jolene has told us that these women are petals of the mother of the world. So they carry that energy wherever they go. And it's interesting, when they go into a room, sometimes people stand, like Aung San Suu Kyi, when she went back to her parliament, everybody stood because they see this beauty and this purity that she embodies. And she's a beautiful example. The mother of the world is the feminine principle in all women. And if the number of women increase in that way, they're going to bring peace. Peace to whom? First of all, those closest to her. Her husband, her children. When her husband comes home from work irritated and angry with feelings of failure or lots of problems, well, the woman hugs him. And really and sincerely, all the ice will melt. She says, honey, don't worry. Tomorrow there is light. We can do it. Look how it's soothing. Look how she's bringing peace. The mind says, well, those problems are your problems. Those aren't my problems. And the heart says, what can I do to ease your pain? This is a sign that your heart petals are opening. When you say, what can I do to ease your pain? Quote, 30 or 40 years ago, there was an incident in the Middle East where 2 or 3 armies were fighting against each other. And women got together as a group and they came to these armies. They came to the battlefield and they said, first kill us before you kill our children. And the war stopped. Woman becomes the ornaments of these magazines instead of becoming objects of worship. Where are these women? So the rainbow symbolizes the peace that woman must carry, must spread everywhere, no matter what. In Greek mythology, Iris is the personification of the rainbow and a messenger linking the gods to humanity. Anu in Hawaii also was a messenger linking the gods to humanity. And when we think of a rainbow, it is linking. It's a link between earth and the higher. If these three symbols stay in your mind, you will see that your children and your family will be totally different. You will bring blooming fragrance in your society. You will bring joy and ecstasy in your society. You will bring peace, harmony, and rhythm. The rainbow is divine. It is not earthly. It is in space. It is so beautiful. Now, Virgo, the mother of the world, has certain qualities. And the first quality is purification or purity. And when we say purity, first of all, we need to understand that we're talking about purity of motives, purity of heart, purity of mind. And if a woman stands for purity, then her fragrance of purity will spread everywhere. Women are going to spread their hearts, their beauty, and their wisdom. One day a man came to me and he said, there is, if you find it and you discover it, in every woman that flower is there. So the first thing that you're going to look for is purity. Purity of heart. Everything related to woman must be pure. And we can think of that flower in the lotus that unfolds as we increase our heart nature, our knowledge, our sacrifice. And that is the flower in every one of us that will expand and unfold with more purity as we purify our nature. The second quality is that a woman has a special gift to come in contact with higher forces. You can find everywhere, in any church or religious organization, that woman is the devoted, dedicated part of that organization. And we can see this. You look at a lot of churches, and women are doing a lot of work. They're in the trenches. She is totally dedicated without expectation. She has total dedication to higher ideals, to wisdom, to higher forces. It is the woman who is getting the intuitive direction and giving it to her family and to her children. Mother must guide her children intuitively because she is naturally and originally in contact with higher sources. For example, when a child comes, that child is coming from heavenly sources. Man is not in contact with heavenly realms to bring a child, but woman is. That is why the new teaching that was given in the 19th and 20th centuries was to woman. For example, we speak about Jesus and we speak about Christ. That's wonderful. But people don't know yet that historically it was the Holy Mary who built the church, organized the church, and orchestrated the church. She was the inspiration. A lot of people would be shocked at that. When the disciples escaped everywhere, she called them all back. And she said, let's start to work now. Let's labor. She was so beautiful. When I was in Jerusalem, a 100-year-old man said, I will tell you a story that you don't know about. He said, when they took the Holy Mother to bury her for the last time, all the disciples came and they wanted to see her face. They opened the coffin and she wasn't there. And that is what is called the Assumption of Mary, which is what the Catholic Church celebrates. We know about the tomb when they went to go open the tomb with Jesus and he wasn't there. but the same occurred for the Holy Mary. A great, great energy, a great somebody is in every woman. In every woman, there is a mechanism that can come in contact with higher values, higher ideals, and higher dreams. It is the woman who receives that because her antenna is differently built than a man's antenna. It does not mean that men don't have value. I'm not saying that. There are both sides of one hand, and they must stay like that. No one is superior, no one is inferior. They are the same, but they have to be recognized for what they are. The third quality is that a real woman gives birth to real leaders of humanity. Real leaders have 5 very distinct characteristics. They have wisdom, they have power, beauty, compassion, and sacrifice. So when we look at our leaders, this is the criteria. Do they have wisdom? Do they have sacrifice? Do they have beauty? Real leaders, men and women who have these characteristics are real leaders. He says we did some research. We collected maybe 60 names of great leaders of humanity in political and scientific and religious fields, and we found that their mothers were exceptional. An exceptional mother can give birth to exceptional children. Once I was visiting a man and his wife, and we were walking in the street, and we came across a restaurant. And it was a little degenerated. And the husband said to the wife, well, let's go in there and see what's going on. Well, there are many things going on in there. And the wife said, I cannot allow myself to go in there. And the man said, come into the 20th century. You're living like in the olden days. You're so old-fashioned. I looked at him and I said, why are you insulting your wife? She said, I cannot allow myself to go in there. If you want to go in, you're free to do so. Well, he didn't. I learned a great lesson. If a woman stands on principle, she can really lead humanity in the right direction. Don't forget, a great woman can give birth to a great child. The father is okay. I'm reading this. The father is beautiful, but the child is not 9 months in the father. Not 9 months it's 9 months in the mother. In the 9 months, it is so secret. In that 9 months, you're not just building the muscles and the bones. That is what most people think. But you're building the emotional mechanism, the visions, the dreams, the aspirations, the spiritual insight. You're building all of these in your baby. And if you don't have these things, then what can you give to your baby? What are you going to give to that baby who is a gift? Your babies are gifts. They are holy gifts. They are part of God, and they're a gift coming to you. How must you accept that gift, and how worthy must you be for that gift? The fourth quality of the mother of the world is called the absorber of pain and suffering. I have lots of consultations with women. They absorb like a sponge the pain and sufferings of their children, their husband and family members, the pain of the world, and the suffering of humanity. They are the absorbers of pain and suffering. And I read a story about a woman in World War II, and her name was Irena Sendler. And she lived in Poland. And she was a Polish Catholic, a social worker, and a member of the Warsaw Underground. And she couldn't stand the pain and the suffering that she saw around her. So she decided to do something. Well, the first thing she did was she and her co-workers started to generate these false visas, these false documents, so that Jewish people could get out of the country, get away from the Nazis. And at the time, the punishment for such an act was not only death to you, but death to your entire family. They would just wipe out your family. And then later on, as a social worker, she was employed by the Social Welfare Department, and she was given full access to the Warsaw Ghetto. So under the pretext of inspecting health conditions for signs of typhoid, because the Nazis were paranoid about typhoid, and they would do anything to avoid typhoid, they sent her in there so that she could inspect everyone, make sure there are no signs of typhoid in the ghetto. Well, she and her co-workers used to smuggle out babies and children. And they would smuggle them out in ambulances and cars, buses, suitcases, and parcels. She provided them with a false ID and placed them with families, or she put them in a convent, one of which was called the Little Sister Servants of the Blessed Virgin Mary, and an orphanage called the Sisters of the Family of Mary. She was eventually caught, and she was tortured. And they broke her legs, and they broke her feet, and they broke many bones in her body. And then they were taking her to her execution, and she bribed the guards, and she was allowed to escape by bribing the guards. And she never betrayed any of her comrades, no matter how much they tortured her. She never gave them any names of anyone else. So in addition to the 3,000 people that she helped get false documents for, she smuggled out over 2,500 children from the Warsaw Ghetto. She kept their names in a jar because after the war, she wanted to reunite the children with their parents. But unfortunately, most of the parents were gone by then. But the children were safe. And with the exception of diplomats who issued visas to the fleeing Jewish people, Irina Sendler saved more Jews than any other individual during the Holocaust. She died in 2008 at 98. And there is a documentary that was made on PBS called In the Name of Their Mothers that you can still see. The fifth quality is gracefulness. He says, when I see girls acting like cowboys, like men, it is the reverse of their nature. Girls must spread their grace and their harmony and music and dance. It is so beautiful to see these women being graceful. He said, I was at a restaurant and a girl was cursing her husband in such a manner that even a boy wouldn't do that. That shouldn't be the nature of woman. We are going to worship them because men need something to worship. If you don't have someone you can love and worship, you are lost. The sixth quality that a woman is a symbol of patience. It is, my goodness, I know how patient they are. Men do so many icky things, monkey business. And women say, wait a month or two. He will change. He says, I know women whose husbands were alcoholics and drug users, and these women, they didn't know what to do. One thing they knew, they prayed, they fasted, they kept silence. They did not criticize, but they knocked on the door of God and said, God, look what is happening. I don't want a divorce. I don't want to beat this man up. What can I do? And God helped. And suddenly the man became changed. So woman conquers People think that woman is weak. You don't know how powerful woman is. And their powerful manifests under the veil. And the next one is a woman. The seventh quality is conscience. Woman's conscience is so sensitive. For example, if the husband or boyfriend does something wrong, immediately, woman will have some kind of instrument that tells her this is not the right direction. The eighth quality is that woman has foresight. The ninth is compassion. And you can read more about these in the chapter. In heaven, let's go a little beyond humanity here, we are told that Virgo constellation is the ashram of cosmic beings. There are millions of schools and universities in that constellation, and only ninth degree initiates can go and study there. What do they study? They study the feminine principle, the wisdom aspect of the universe.